Good afternoon. My name is Lisa Keys and I'm a 5th grade teacher at Sally Humble Elementary. Welcome to MCS TV. Today I'm going to be talking about some literary skills but using mentor texts to help teach them. Some of you may have read different novels this year and we can review some of those and talk about these skills, but in the stories that I'm going to read today, you'll see an opportunity to apply these skills. The skill I'm going to talk about right now is point of view. The point of view is the viewpoint from which the story is told. This means how the narrator is telling the story. Is it first person? Sometimes we hear second person or third person. The most common used in fiction today is first and third person. First person is the character, him or herself, is actually telling the story from their own point of view, using pronouns like I, me, and we. When we think about stories that are like that, anything that's a journal, you see using first person. Many of you have probably read Dork Diaries or Diary of a Wimpy Kid. That's told in first person. We also see third person used, where a person not involved in the actual story is telling the story, including the thinking and actions of the characters. Many of the novels we've read this year in 5th grade, from The Birch Bark House to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and even Wonderstruck, are told from this third person point of view, where we see pronouns like he and she, them, and they. Well, why does this point of view matter? Well, that's one of the important things in 5th grade that we learn as a skill, because it's important that we know what our narrator is telling us. In first person, we only know that person's thoughts and feelings, those thoughts and feelings from the person telling it. So we only would know the person in Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Same thing in third person, where we would see maybe one or two different people's thoughts, because we see the person telling the story tells the thoughts or actions of people. We don't know exactly what they're thinking and feeling. It helps us analyze the story better so we can understand what's going on and the importance of that. Well, as we look at stories, it's important to identify the point of view, but then also think about why that matters. Many of you probably read the story of Cinderella, right? Well, we're going to look at a little different perspective today from the point of view first person, but not Cinderella. This one is actually going to be from the point of view of the stepmother. So we are fortunate to have the opportunity in Monroe City Schools to have the My Own digital access through Renaissance at Home, and this is one of the stories that you can read from this website. Seriously, Cinderella is so annoying. Now, we've seen it where we hear Cinderella's side of the story, but looking at this point of view, we're seeing it from the stepmothers. Now, I never would have thought Cinderella being annoying, but after we read this story, maybe you will. You must have heard of me. The Wicked Stepmother. Not true. It's just another one of Cinderella's wild stories. Not as wild as the one about the pumpkin and the fairy godmother. The real story, the true story, began with some chatter and some dust. All I ever wanted was a husband and a mansion. Before I married Cindy's father, my two darlings and I had met Cindy only a few times. The girl seemed normal then. After I married Cindy's father, my darlings and I moved in. When I had just one foot on the front step, my dear husband kissed me goodbye and said, "I'm off on business." "He leaves often," Cindy said, "but the animals stay put. They talk, they joke, they sing, they even help out, especially the bluebirds." Now, I don't mind a story, but I like facts, not fiction. Soon the girl was talking all kinds of hokey pokey. "Once upon a time," Cindy said, "one of the bluebirds became blue. Not the color, the feeling. His friend had flown south. My darlings and I were stuck near the front door. I just wanted to put away my bags, and that's when I saw it. Dust. 'Dear, is this whole house this dusty?' I asked. 'I don't know,' Cindy said. 'I'll give you a tour.' In the dining room, Cindy told stories. In the study, Cindy told stories. Non-stop. Girls, I said, time to get to work. This place needs a good cleaning. Once upon a time when I was cleaning, Cindy started. Oh boy. Cindy mopped the floor, but she finished so fast. My darlings had barely started. Did you know robins and sparrows are my friends, she said. But the sparrows don't like the robins. Silly creatures. Once upon a time, one of the robins, Cindy dear, I said, why don't you go and wash the clothes now? But Cindy washed them so fast. How on earth did she do it? I had to find another chore for her just to keep her busy. If there's one thing squirrels love, it's washing clothes, Cindy said. The rats, though, would rather iron. You know, one day, squirrels and rats doing laundry? Quit telling such foolish stories, I said. Time passed, but nothing changed. In the garden, Cindy told stories. In the kitchen, Cindy told stories. At dinner, I couldn't hear myself think. Dear, please, I said, stop talking. But Cindy didn't stop. One day, a letter arrived. It was an invitation to the king's ball. The prince would surely fall in love with one of my darlings. Then they would marry and live in a beautiful castle, and one day be king and queen of all the land. Oh, stepmother, I have to go too, said Cindy. Once upon a time, a girl and a prince. And then, just like that, Cindy lost her voice. Imagine, it had to be from all that storytelling. Well, what could I do? I told Cindy she had to stay home for her health. She cried, of course. But a ball was no place for a sick girl. She needed rest. Sometimes it's so hard being a stepmother. At the ball, my darlings twirled, they whirled, but then some strange girl waltzed in. Her gown was magnificent. I couldn't take my eyes off it. I wondered how much it cost, and if my seamstress could copy it for me. The prince and the girl danced and pranced. My poor darlings were left princeless. A few days later, the prince made an announcement. A glass slipper had been left at the castle. The prince would marry the girl whose foot it fit. Our big chance. After visiting every other mansion in the neighborhood, the prince's valet arrived at our door. Me, said one of my darlings. No, me, said the other. One at a time, said the valet. Each girl tried, but the shoe didn't fit. Then Cindy pushed out a whisper. Please, let me try. The shoe fit. Cindy pulled the match out of her pocket. What? My darlings cried. Cindy pushed out another whisper. She said something about a pumpkin coach and a mice that turned into horses. She even added a fairy godmother. Please, there's no such thing. But I still don't know where she got those shoes. A few days later, the prince married Cindy. Poor man. He had no idea what he was getting himself into, but we lived happily ever after. So as we see, this particular story is told from first person. We see the words I and we and me, but also we see that it's from a perspective that maybe we're not familiar with. And we see a whole different side of this story, which is something I really love when we look at point of view. Maybe you've written some things from a different point of view. Maybe in the Birch Bark House you saw it was told and Omachias's thoughts and feelings were seen, and then you changed it to Day-Day's. Well, that's what they did in this story. They changed it from Cinderella's story to the stepmother. Pretty interesting. In addition to reading a story and talking about how interesting it is from a different point of view, we're going to look at a strategy that we've incorporated this year in Monroe City School with the Writing Revolution. We've been looking at things in the Writing Revolution to help us improve our writing. So say your teacher asks you to write a summary or to give some information about this story and why it's unusual. We're going to do something today that is an activity with because, but, and so. We're going to incorporate how we want to add complex sentences to our writing. So we take a general sentence stem, Cinderella is so annoying, the title of the story, and we use that and we answer some questions. We talk about Cinderella is so annoying because. This answers the question why. When we think about because, that helps us understand the why. Well, why is she so annoying? You all would know this at home. You can answer it as I write it on the board. Cinderella is so annoying because she talks constantly. We may not have seen that if we weren't reading it from the stepmother's point of view. So this is why that's important to look at. When we look at our second conjunction here, Cinderella is so annoying, but that represents a change of direction, something completely different. She talks constantly, and you would think if you're always talking, you wouldn't get much done. But on the contrary, we see Cinderella is so annoying, she quickly finishes her chores. A contrast of what we would think of when we see why she talks, but then again, she does finish all her chores. And again, now as we're looking at the stepmother, when we look at the so conjunction, the cause and effect. So what does the stepmother do? Cinderella is so annoying, so she makes her stay home for her health. And we see this because we know that she lost her voice from the story. The cause and effect is that she's annoying, she lost her voice, and so the stepmother says, okay, so stay home for your health. A lot of different perspective when you look at the stepmother than when you look at Cinderella. This is just an activity that can help you write some sentences that are a little bit more complex and makes your writing more interesting. So now you're at home, maybe you have some books at home, maybe you're going to use my own through the Renaissance at home. When you look at a book, what I want you to do, this is your challenge, identify the point of view. Think about, is it first or third, and whose thoughts and feelings we know if it's in third and why that's important. Try a because, but, and so strategy of the writing revolution and see if you can answer some questions with because, but, and so. But then, as we've talked about, write a paragraph from a different point of view. Maybe you could take a story that you read as a young child and change it, a fable, one of these silly fairy tales that you know, and write it from a different point of view and see how that can change things and why point of view is so important. I hope you enjoyed looking at point of view, reading our funny story, and also trying a few strategies that can help us become better writers. Have a great day.